What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we have video number 2 for you guys. If you didn't catch the last one, the reason that I'm putting up a couple videos today is because I will not be able to upload one tomorrow, so we're coming at you with a couple videos today. This video today, as I had stated in the last video, part 15 I believe it was, of the franchise, we're in part 16 now, we are going to recap the month of May, rather, and we're going to recap the draft class that we had coming into here. So I'll make you guys wait for the draft class here for a moment while we go through and recap a little bit of the games that we have played to this point. Coming into May, we had a final game against San Diego, which we ended up winning 7-2. You know, honestly, a lot of what you're going to see here is pretty unexciting. I legitimately simulated this entire month, and we have managed to pull out a crap load of wins. So, you know, we are starting to pull away in the division. You guys will see that in a moment. But we went on to play Arizona, where we took a two-game series win out of that. We took a 2-game series win against Atlanta. We then went on and took a 2-game series win against Chicago. I believe we had a 4-game series against Colorado, where we swept all 4 games. Going into Cincinnati, we went on and we actually got our first series loss of May, taking 2 losses in a row to them. We then picked up the 3rd win, though, which propelled us into a series sweep of the Chicago Cubs. We went on to play Philadelphia, where we did a series sweep. We took 3 out of 4 games in a 4-game series against St. Louis, where we then went to play Tampa Bay. We won 2-1, and then in the second of a 2-game series, we won 3-1. And then it came up on the draft, and before we get to the draft, I would like to recap you guys on some of the stats. So, as I said, yes, we are kind of pulling away in the division. We're simulating and getting a lot of these wins. It wouldn't be much different if I played. I'd probably be winning all these games as well. So, you know, I think we've just built a team that's tough enough to a point now where I think that they're so hard to beat, which is really good for us. You know, as a franchise, we are looking to become a dynasty, as I said, and that's kind of the goal from this point forward, is to make this team into a dynasty. And I think that we are successfully doing that. We're successfully the top team in our division. Now, the Cubs have put up a bit of a fight, but they really aren't as good as they used to be, and the team that has given us the most trouble in past seasons, who is the Brewers, is sitting at 29-33. So the division as a whole, I think, has gotten quite a bit worse, which just opens the door further for us to just take hold and create a bit of a dynasty here like the Cubs did for a while, and now this is our time to shine. With that being said, let's go ahead and look up the pitching rotations and the lineups. The pitching rotation, Mitch Keller is on fire right now. He's up to a 2.34 ERA, or I should say down to a 2.34 ERA at an 8-1 record. Jameson Taillon is a bit more in the middle at a 5-2 record with a 3.63 ERA. Then we have Noah Cindergard, who is actually hot now, getting his ERA down to 4.27. It was a little bit higher before, so he was struggling to start off the year, but he's getting back on track with a 6-3 record. Then followed up by Brennan McKay, who has a 3.08 ERA with a 9-2 record, and I'm proud to say Braxton Ashcraft is really filling out his role right now with a 3.79 ERA and a 5-2 record. In terms of our bullpen, Keone Kela continues to perform really well with a 1.54 ERA, which is really good for a reliever, to be honest with you, and he's getting a lot of saves to boot. Aaron Bummer hasn't performed quite as well as we would have liked him to coming over. He's struggling a little bit, so he might be somebody that could be, you know, we did just bring him in, so I don't know if I would trade him away right away, but he's somebody that could certainly be on the market if somebody is out there looking for an arm. Archie Bradley, I think, is finally hitting his stride and reaching the potential that we wanted him to reach when we brought him over, and he's, you know, only got a 0.5 ERA, which is really nice to see. Touki Toussaint has struggled a bit in his appearance here, so there's some consideration going on right now that I might send him down and bring somebody else up. We'll see what happens with that. If I do decide to make a change, I will let you guys know in the next video. Peter Fairbanks has played really well with a 2.42 ERA. Edwin Diaz has also played really well with a 3.04 ERA. There's nothing to complain about there. And Scott Foster, I think, is also finally starting to hit his potential with a 2.40 ERA. Eliezer Hernandez has additionally done very well. I'd like to see a better progression out of him. His overall's a little bit low right now, and his potential is going down slightly. I think because we're not playing him as a starting pitcher, we're not playing him in a crazy good role. I think he's just kind of going to be what he is unless I decide to do something else with him. I might be able to get some insane value back for him if I, switched him to starting pitcher and traded him over to another team. That could certainly help us out, but I really don't see the need right now to make a trade because of how good our team is performing or how well our team is performing. I don't see a need to make a crazy move or anything, but that's just something to think about. If it's something you guys want to see me do, let me know in the comment section. But he's somebody that we brought in year one, and he's been around and has just played his role perfectly for us, and I don't mind having him around to help us out get another couple rings or another couple trophies. With that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at our lineup. There are some things that I'm really happy about here. Kevin Newman is starting to get his ERA back up with a 2.64. Brandon Marsh is excelling in that designated hitter role with a 3.16 average and 7 home runs. Brian Reynolds on top with a 3.53 average. Really nice to see him back up at the top like he is. Josh Bell, I believe, leads the league in batting average with a 371, and he's up to a 99. I know we said that in the last video, but I can't emphasize how proud I am of the fact that he's a 99 because he's really finally starting to hit his true potential, and I'm glad that we kept him around and didn't move on from him. I don't know if the Pirates are going to do that in real life, but if he could reach this type of a potential, that would be phenomenal for them. O'Neal Cruz is bouncing back. I don't know if you guys remember in the previous video, he was batting under 200. He's now up to 247 with 9 home runs, so he's clearly had a good month. JJ Bleday continues to hover around that 240 mark. We've yet to see him break out in a meaningful way. He's a fantastic defender, don't get me wrong. I would really just like to see at some point his bat really start to pop, and it hasn't yet. Travis Swaggerty, though it says he's cold, he is very successful for us this season, batting 270 with 5 home runs. I mean, he's just an all-around good player. I'd say a better defensive player than anything, and I'm not going to complain about that performance. Ke'Bryan Hayes is at a 2.49 ERA with 8 home runs. Another guy that's just a really good defender for us, and his bat, it needs to come along a little bit. But these are all young players. When you talk about guys like O'Neal Cruz, Bleday, Swaggerty, and Hayes, those are a combination of all really young players that still have a lot of time before they really hit their true potential or anything like that. So that's worth noting. Sean Murphy is continuing to tear it up with a 2.99 average. And I apologize if I've been saying ERA. I think I just realized I might have been saying ERA, not average. I apologize for that if I did. But 2.99 average, 10 home runs, 40 RBIs. Really, really well-rounded performance from Sean Murphy so far this season, and we're going to look to hopefully continue to get even more development out of him as we progress. Off the bench, some really great things to see. Everybody's hot off the bench, and I just love to see it. Andrew McCutchen is playing extremely well being back in Pittsburgh, and I'm just absolutely in love with the fact that we decided to bring him back, and he has been performing so dang well for us, batting 336 and 140 at-bats with 10 home runs. I mean, it's like he's getting starting playing time. I know he's not, but I mean, jeez, is he playing good, guys, and I'm really happy about that. Dalton Varsho in limited time is getting a 345 average, and I can't be upset about that either. That's what I want out of my second catcher. My personal system is I like my second catcher to be a guy that can come in and hit for us if we need him to. I like all the guys on my bench to be a little bit versatile, and that's what I brought Dalton Varsho in to do, and he's doing really well in that spot. Jason Martin continues to bat really well at 333 in 93 at-bats, and he's a great defensive player, so I see him sticking around for a long time. I don't see any reason to move on from him. The only reason I could see us moving on from a guy like this is if somebody excels and takes out his spot coming up through the minors. Cole Tucker is just absolutely tearing it up, and he was actually up to an 81 overall at one point because of his confidence. He's gone down slightly since then, and that was around the middle of the month, but 358 average with a couple of home runs, a bunch of RBIs in 137 at-bats. I am not complaining at all. I am so happy with the way this team is performing. I'm really happy that everybody's kind of hitting their stride at once. I'm hoping that they can keep that going through the rest of the season, but, we have yet to see what's going to happen with the rest of the season. I'm going to look at the standings overall and just see how we compare to other teams, the other top teams in the league, like the Dodgers. Actually, we probably have one of the best records in the league. So the other one that I saw that was close, there was 44 wins by the Indians. We do have the best record in the league. Like I said, I don't want us to win all these games. I don't want it to be super unrealistic, but I am simulating, and we have built a really good team, so it's just going to happen that we're going to win a ton of games. Now, with all of that stuff being said, the last thing that I really want to recap in this video, we're not going to get into too many other things. The thing that I do want to recap in this video is the draft picks. Now, this draft was a little bit rough for us from a couple aspects. Number one, the drafting that the scouts did automatically for me, because I have them set to auto, and I actually can't get to scouting right now, but obviously because we're past the draft, they did a really poor job of scouting. I mean, they didn't develop as many prospects as I would have liked them to, because I was sitting there in the 6th round of the draft and I had like 2 people to pick from, and I'm like, what is this? I've never seen this before. So a lot of players had been picked by that point. We were obviously picking last in the draft because of how well we've done, winning and everything, and winning a World Series. So we obviously picked last in the draft. So that was set against us. And we just didn't have the same pool of players to choose from that we normally do. However, I will say we managed to pull out a pretty good draft class with the odds stacked against us. So if we look at the draft class here, with our first overall pick, we pick a starting pitcher, Cesar Soriano. Really good player, actually. A 58 overall with high B potential out of Cuba, only 20 years old. Has a lot of potential for us in the future. Could be a down-the-line player that could start for us eventually, which is really nice to see in a draft class where this guy was picked like 26th overall or something like that. That's a really good player to get with that pick. Our next pick was a relief pitcher, Brian Ting, who's an international player out of Taiwan. I really like this guy. I mean, a lot of the stuff, we did have him scouting. A lot of the stuff that I saw from him was looking really good. So I really liked the ability to have him there available for me. I was considering picking him in the 1st round over Cesar Soriano. I'm glad I didn't, because he lasted until the 2nd round, or wherever I was. Yeah, it was the 2nd round. I didn't have a compensation pick. I think in like the 2nd or 3rd round I had a compensation pick, so that's why you guys will see I have 7 players instead of 6. Is somewhere along the lines I had a comp pick, and so I'm really happy with these top 2 picks. We then got Brett Rossi, a center fielder out of Texas. I'm pretty happy about this pick too, because as you guys can see, he's got a pretty good bat and he's got good speed and good athleticism. So even if he only has C potential here, he's still 19 years old and he's really athletic. There is a high probability that he could still turn into a really good player, and I like to see that out of a player like that, as you guys can see. I mean, that 81 contact with that 89 speed, that should set him up really well to kind of fly up through the minor leagues if he's really good at getting the bat on the ball and has the speed to beat throws out to first base. That should allow him to have a really good batting average in the minor, and I'm really excited about that. In the 4th round, we picked Renee Villarreal. I don't know if it's Renee or not. He's out of Puerto Rico. I took a flyer on him. I just kind of liked his name. I liked his appearance. I didn't have much scouted about him, so I took a flyer pick on him, and I believe he was the compensation pick. So, I mean, not a terrible pick or anything like that late in the draft, but what I will say is that our next few picks were absolutely stellar. We went on to pick Solomon Cordero. He was sitting there as a closing pitcher. I was looking through the prospects that were available at this point in time, and I'm like, you know what? If I take a closing pitcher, the guy's at least going to be able to throw gas. So I went on and picked Solomon Cordero, and he has 89 potential, which is really good, and he's a 60 overall, so I'm really happy about that pick. Then we went on to pick Mike Cox, a starting pitcher out of Indiana. Really good player, low overall but high potential, so really good to see that. And then our final pick of the draft, which was like one of the very last picks in the draft, maybe the next to last pick in the draft, was Quentin Calvin. He is a 20-year-old starting pitcher out of Texas with what is it, 77 potential. So, you know, not bad for one of the last players drafted in the entire draft class. And this is the guy that I picked that I was saying, I'm sitting there, I'm looking at it, and I'm like, what on earth? Like, I only have 3 or 4 players scouted at this point. What is going on with that? So I was looking at that, and I was like, you know what? This guy looks like the best player out of the bunch, so I'll go ahead and pick him. Now, that's pretty much all I have left for you guys. That's pretty much what the update is for today's video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed getting another update here in the franchise mode. I'll see you guys in the next video. If there's anything else that you guys would like to see here, let me know in the comments section. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you're new. I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a good night.